"You need to step away from the front row," my sister whispered sharply. "Dad wouldn't want you sitting with us." I stared at her, stunned. "What are you talking about?" She leaned closer. "You own nothing here." And that's when I realized this funeral wasn't just about grief. My name is Danielle Harper, and I'm 34 years old. I'm a public middle school teacher. Nothing flashy, just steady work and long hours. I was the dependable one in the family, the quiet daughter who showed up, helped with hospital visits, paid small bills when Dad forgot. My older sister, Rebecca, was always the favorite, the one they praised at every holiday dinner. She worked in real estate, drove a new SUV every 2 years, and made sure everyone knew it. When Dad got sick, she handled the big decisions. I handled the late-night calls and the pharmacy runs. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. For years, I kept records, conversations, emails, promises Dad made when no one else was in the room. I never thought I'd need them, but standing at his funeral, being told I owned nothing, something inside me shifted. I wasn't just grieving my father. I was realizing my place in this family had always been smaller than I thought. If you've ever been the responsible one who still got overlooked, hit that subscribe button. I know what it's like to give everything and still be treated like you don't belong. Tell me in the comments, have you been there too? Click hype if you're ready for this story. After the funeral service, guests gathered in the church hall for refreshments. The air smelled like burnt coffee and store-bought cookies. Rebecca publicly thanked everyone who truly supported Dad, her voice carrying across the room, pointedly excluding me from her gaze. I stood by the dessert table, trying to blend into the wallpaper. Then I overheard her telling our aunt and 2 cousins, Dad already made it clear who the house is going to. My stomach dropped. We never talked about the will, not once. I walked over, keeping my voice low. We never talked about the will. Rebecca barely looked at me. "Because there's nothing for you to talk about." She claimed she'd handled Dad's finances for the last year and implied I wasn't around enough. The words stung because they were lies. I was there every week. She visited twice. Then came the real humiliation. Rebecca announced, loud enough for half the room to hear, that I should start clearing my childhood bedroom by the end of the week. Extended family shifted uncomfortably. No one stepped in, no one said a word. The final twist came when she casually mentioned the estate lawyer had scheduled the will reading for the next morning without telling me directly. I realized then that this was planned. I was meant to find out last. I discovered I'd been removed from a family group chat about Dad's medical decisions months earlier. When I asked Rebecca about it, she shrugged. It was easier without confusion. Easier for who? I felt erased from my own father's final chapter. Then I learned Rebecca had Dad sign over joint access to his main bank account. She framed it as protecting assets, but I remembered Dad once saying, over breakfast when it was just the 2 of us, "You're the only one I trust to be fair." Doubt crept in. Was Dad pressured? Did he even understand what he was signing? At a small dinner after the funeral, Rebecca raised her glass to Dad, who taught us that success matters. Then she added, glancing directly at me, "Some of us listened better than others." A few cousins laughed. Heat rushed to my face, but I didn't react. Instead, I pulled out my phone under the table and started texting. I wasn't falling apart anymore. I was focusing. I requested copies of documents from the estate lawyer directly. Rebecca grew smug, clearly thinking she'd already won. She had no idea what I was building in the background. My resilience wasn't loud, it was quiet and deliberate. What they didn't know was I had been recording Dad's voice memos for months. He often struggled to write, but loved leaving audio notes about his wishes. One recording clearly stated he wanted everything divided equally and explained why. He said Rebecca was capable but impulsive, and that I deserved recognition for the years I showed up without asking for anything in return. I also saved emails between Rebecca and a financial advisor discussing timing the transfer before Danielle catches on. My chest tightened when I first read those words. I had a plan they never saw coming. Danielle never confronted Rebecca earlier because Dad asked her to keep peace until I'm gone. I respected that, until now. I'd already forwarded the recordings and emails to someone who knew how to handle estate disputes, someone Rebecca had forgotten about. The will reading was approaching fast. I wasn't going in empty-handed. Mr. Caldwell was an old family lawyer who'd handled my grandparents' estate decades ago. He remembered me as the child who asked questions while others chased attention. When I showed him the recordings and emails, his expression shifted. He grew serious. "If what you're saying is true, this changes everything." He explained the legal implications of coercion and undue influence. Meanwhile, Rebecca bragged to relatives that she'd likely sell the house within months. She even began measuring rooms for renovation, texting contractors before Dad's grave had settled. I remained quiet, which Rebecca interpreted as surrender. She thought I'd given up. Tension built toward the will reading at the lawyer's office. Then Mr. Caldwell did something unexpected. He requested that all beneficiaries be present, including me by name, in a formal notice. Rebecca's confidence flickered for the first time that day. She called me that night. "Why is Caldwell involved?" I didn't answer. I just said I'd see you tomorrow. The family gathered in a formal conference room. The walls were lined with law books, and the air conditioning hummed too loud. Rebecca sat confidently at the head of the table, legs crossed, hands folded. The estate lawyer began reading the will. Most assets appeared to go to Rebecca. She smirked slightly, glancing at me like she'd already won. Then Mr. Caldwell interrupted. "Before we proceed, we need to address new evidence." Rebecca stiffened. "What evidence?" I spoke calmly for the first time that day. Dad's voice. The recording played. Dad's voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable, stating his wish for equal division and expressing concern about pressure. Silence. Rebecca tried to argue. That was before he understood the finances. Mr. Caldwell presented the emails discussing strategic account transfers. The estate lawyer explained potential invalidation of the updated will due to coercion. Rebecca's confidence cracked. "You recorded him? That's low." I leaned forward. "No, what's low is rewriting his wishes." The final blow came when Mr. Caldwell announced legal action to freeze asset transfers pending investigation. Rebecca realized the house sale was halted. The room shifted. Relatives no longer looked at me with pity, but respect. The power dynamic had completely reversed. Months later, mediation resulted in a fair division of the estate. Rebecca faced legal fees and a damaged reputation within the extended family. I chose not to keep the house. I sold my share and used it to pay off student loans and start a literacy nonprofit. I didn't celebrate revenge. I found peace in knowing my father's true wishes were honored. Rebecca attempted a cold apology over email. I accepted it without reopening closeness. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. I didn't fight for money. I fought for the truth, and once I had that, I finally felt like I belonged. If your family ever tried to rewrite the truth after someone passed, you know how heavy that feels. Have you ever been pushed aside in an inheritance or legal decision? Share your story in the comments. I read every one. Subscribe if you believe fairness matters more than favoritism. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Did this story hit home? Let me know by liking the video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Click hype to help this story find others who felt the same way. Your support makes a huge difference.